Well, the African Union, meanwhile, has refused to backtrack on decisions made at the Kigali summit earlier this month. It's determined to send in a regional protection force to South Sudan. The AU says the deployment is in the best interest of the people of South Sudan. Here's more from CCTV's Gurum Chala.
Despite President Salva Kiir's rejection of the proposal to deploy a regional force to South Sudan, the African Union says there is no change in its standpoint. Officials here are continuing with their preparations to send in troops, including consultations with military personnel. The AU says it has a duty to implement the decisions passed by the heads of state at the recent summit in Kigali. The bloc is awaiting approval from the United Nations Security Council, which also be able to release much-needed financial support for the mission. Military experts have slammed President Kiir's threat that his army will fight any foreign troops in the country. They have warned that the situation in South Sudan could deteriorate even further if it fails to accept the AU's intervention. Group Dara CCTV at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa.
Well, CCTV's Robert Nagila has just come back from Juba. He joins me now in our Nairobi studios for a closer look at these recent developments coming out of South Sudan. Robert, events in South Sudan have moved very fast in the past couple of days. How soon could we see a new vice president in power replacing Riek Machar?
Well, Lindy, you're absolutely right. There has been a lot of activity, especially on the side of the SPLM in opposition. That was Dr. Riek Machar's party. We knew that there were moves to nominate somebody in acting capacity, and that is Taban Deng, who has now been nominated and accepted by the SPLM side of President Salva Kiir. However, what now needs to happen is they need to go back to the peace agreement. They need to look at certain clauses that deal with this particular section. What happens if the vice president is not there and somebody else is nominated in his place? It could take anything between a few days and a week or a month. We just don't know at this particular moment. But that's what I believe that President Salva Kiir's side is doing. They're going back to the negotiated peace settlement, looking at their agreement, and then we will know in the coming days what happens after that.
And it seems that Riek Machar might find himself now between a rock and a hard place. Just how badly has he been affected by these recent clashes in terms of his position of authority, both within the SPLM as well as within the unity government?
Well, he has been affected on a number of fronts. Number one, his main protection force, we are told a lot of his guards were killed in that particular firefight in the last crisis. He did manage to get out with a few. Number two, his position as vice president is now under threat. Now, just how much power he does wield now over his current cabinet is now under question. How much power he wields outside that within his own supporters is now under question as well, because we understand that President Salva Kiir is now consolidating his position around the country, because as far as they're concerned, they need to get back to the peace, negotiated peace settlement. If one person, that is Dr. Riek Machar, is not there, that doesn't mean that they can't move on with everybody else who's at the sitting table. So that's where we find ourselves in. But clearly, Dr. Riek Machar's position has been severely affected. Just how much we still don't know. We will probably get a good idea over the coming days. But as yet, and this is very significant, nobody really knows where exactly he is.
And what also makes this quite difficult is that all the sort of key players in this particular situation are standing their ground quite stubbornly on their various positions, whether to bring in an AU force or not, to allow a new vice president to be put in place. You've spoken exclusively to President Salva Kiir. How is he most likely to handle this situation going forward?
Well, on the side of troops, President Salva Kiir was very categorical during the interview that I recently had with him. And he basically said he will not allow any foreign troops into Southern Sudan. The thinking behind his administration is this: the fact that you had two opposing armies under different command structures, that was part of the problem that led to this recent crisis. Now, he says that if a protection force is needed for Dr. Riek Machar, then UNMISS, that is the UN mission in South Sudan, has got 12,000 troops. So they can be drawn from there. So he's very categorical with that. However, there's also a lot of pressure from international partners and donors. So we'll just have to wait and see whether that pressure will make the administration of Salva Kiir change its mind. On the issue of the peace process itself, he's determined to move forward with it, because he says that, look, it's not about the leaders, it's about the people of South Sudan who are suffering. So he says that, and listening to Taban Deng, who's been appointed, or rather nominated, as first vice president in acting capacity as Dr. Riek Machar is still away, he said that the movement is not about one person. It's about a whole lot of people and ideas. So clearly, they seem to be eager to move ahead with this process. Just what role or how this will be affected by the re-emergence of Dr. Riek Machar, if he does finally come in, or whatever other steps he takes, remains to be seen.
Well, of course, we'll be watching developments there closely in that situation. Thanks very much, Robert Nagila, live for us here in our Nairobi studios.